This is a HotHouse installation that we designed for London Design Festival. The plants and the species in a hothouse is filled with what scientists predicts what London will be like by 2050. If their prediction is correct, we will have avocados and sugar canes and all sorts of citrus trees growing in our garden.
The idea behind a hothouse or a greenhouse is a protected environment in which you can regulate the temperature to grow plants that wouldn't normally be able to grow in certain climates.
The design of a hothouse was looking back a little bit what this area was and seeing where it is now and where we might go in the future. During the 1930s, this part was actually hosted the world's largest and densest concentration of greenhouses, serving at the time which was very exotic plants like grapes and the cucumbers.
So I think at the moment UK agriculture is known for kind of leafy greens and you see apple orchards in rural Britain. But if climate does change as predicted, we could be walking through lemon groves in Cornwall or pomegranate groves in Yorkshire. It's kind of crazy to think that now you can't really imagine that kind of shift and that kind of change, but we could be living in a climate much more like Spain or Italy. And that will really change the kind of crops that we grow, the kind of crops we produce, and also the kind of ornamental plants we grow. Already as a garden designer, I'm seeing a shift in client expectations and requests for drought-tolerant planting schemes or Mediterranean planting schemes, and also exotic or tropical planting schemes. And already things like the tree ferns that you see in here can survive outside in the UK. They sometimes need winter protection if it's really cold. But in a few years' time, maybe they won't need any winter protection at all, and they'll just survive. And it will really start to change the makeup of British flora and fauna as well.
Understanding the wealth of history of this area of hosting the glass houses to feed the populations of London, and looking at the architecture going up now, very modern glass, light-filled spaces. There was, in my mind, quite a big correlation that we are now building environments that is filled with lights for us to work and live, and the architecture of HotHouse responds to that. It's very modern, very contemporary way of the design and material and its expression, but it's hosting the plants, that is edible plants, just like glass houses did. So it's sitting amongst these giants of the buildings as a very small little sister sitting in their courtyard.
Jay and I, when thinking about the concept, discussed not wanting it to be too kind of hard-hitting or too heavily focused on climate change. And part of the whole installation is referencing this historic past, these historic glass houses, and also the excitement of what you can grow under glass, and the adaptability and ingenuity of humans to create these kind of structures that let things be grown, plants from across the world from different climates out, over here in the UK.
The design process wasn't about designing a shape and trying to make everything work within. It was really thinking about what actually needed in the location and external context and its internal context, and it slowly shapes itself.
The kind of logistics of getting these big plants into this structure, it was a bit like a kind of ship in a bottle idea. Once the skin went on, there was no way we were going to get big plants in. So a lot of the larger specimens had to be carefully planned out, the root balls mapped onto the structure, and then lifted in by a crane, and then once in, planting the underplanting in the understory. And the idea is that the understory planting will change seasonally, so we might plant different things in the autumn, different things in the spring. It's here for a year. I'd recommend people to come and have a look and hopefully be inspired, and also, think about climate change, think about the kind of things we might be able to grow, the kind of things we're growing now, and what we can do to limit that global warming.
The nature of this kind of project and the London Design Festival, it's festival, and the festival is about bringing people together. Something that so the design had going through the significant changes over the COVID time, because we had to manage the how people are going to experience it and visit it. But we always wanted to give people hope and smile on their face so it doesn't become such a serious piece of the installation and architecture. And I really, really wish soon we will have that festivity and smile back to our lives, and things can be celebrated with very close proximity with people.